We want now to talk about the Tech Iron Dome, if you will, Circles of Dialogue, a global coalition of tech companies, entrepreneurs, investors, all with the aim to support the Israeli tech ecosystem. So what does it mean exactly? We head now to Mr. Eric Rosenthal, Chief Strategy Officer at Rapid and co-founder of Circles of Dialogue, joining us now just hours before Thanksgiving dinner. Thank you very much, Mr. Rosenthal, for making us some time before Turkey night. Before we talk about this venture, I'm no big tech expert, but from what I understand, the tech word is all about identifying the need first, right? So what happened since the beginning of the war? What was this need that you guys identified?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me and providing us a mechanism by which we can spread the word about what we're doing, as well as to once again emphasize a message that the tech community inside of Israel as well as outside of Israel is standing strong and mobilizing in order to support the ecosystem. Myself, having been in the tech ecosystem now for more than a decade, as well very specifically for the past 6 years, working for one of the most prominent Israeli tech companies by the name of Rapid. At the time that the war broke out, of course, on a personal level, we began to reflect, or I began to reflect on, what would it actually mean for us, but more broadly speaking, taking a step back and understanding what it would potentially mean for everyone else. Framing it in the context that 2.5 million people are in the working population in Israel. About 1 in 6 people is currently called to duty. There's definitively a material dynamic that no matter what, there's a human resource dynamic that's playing out. Like any other market condition where there's a very sudden change in the market conditions, there's also called an ambience of uncertainty with regard to what will actually happen with the tech ecosystem. So when we launched this initiative, it really was coming from this point of view of, we had some hypotheses, and I think as you're hinting that yes, tech is very much about having a hypothesis, going out and testing out that hypothesis and trying to figure out what the product market fit is. And that's ultimately, let's say, the process that we've been going through for the past month. Of course, the need first and foremost is I think, in a belief and confidence within the people that are working in these companies, within the leadership, within the investor community, that these companies will prevail. Not every company is set for success, but in either case, that they will be able to persevere in this particular context. And ultimately, I think as well that this belief that these companies do have short-term financial needs. These companies as well need to believe that the investor community will stand by. And ultimately, that's, how the coalition came about, with this idea that we would be able to mobilize the network that we have, as well as a network of the global, and call it tech community, to stand alongside the Israeli tech ecosystem.
So if I understand correctly, Mr. Rosenthal, it is mostly about creating an atmosphere and also some practical reassurances about stability and certainty.
I would say this is what, call it the spirit and the mission is, but in practicality, what the Circles of Dialogue has done up until now, and what we aim to continue to do, is the following. We have built an online platform, effectively called a marketplace. Since we launched the marketplace about 3 weeks ago, we've had more than 300 companies from Israel sign up. And in the onboarding process, in the process of signing up, they've described what they do, what stage they're at, what they're looking for. They're communicating that they need access to new financing, they need access to new networks, they need access to basically introductions. So first and foremost, what the platform is designed to do is collect, call it the demand from the tech ecosystem in Israel. And then the supply side of this network, or this platform, basically what we've been doing is we've been building up a supply of service providers throughout mainly the US, but broadly speaking, our intent is to do it in major tech ecosystems globally, but right now in the US, where we have lawyers, we have marketing agencies, we have dev shops, we have a variety of different service providers that are offering their services for free or at a heavy discount in order to support these companies. And then we have investors, an investor network where they're not necessarily changing their criteria, but they're making it easier for companies to contact them. And then simultaneously, the last thing that we have, and this is, I think, the most sort of heartwarming element, is that we're seeing a mobilization of dozens, if not hundreds of people that said, how can I help?
Right.
And ultimately what our response has been is, yes, you can write a check, but really what the coalition is aiming to do is to get people to open the Rolodex. If you have a way to help a company that's trying to get in front of a potential client, make that easier for them. If you have a connection that can get a company in front of a potential investor, make that easier. The world of startups is ultimately... Right, go ahead.
No, I'm saying it's amazing because it's definitely one of the most prevalent side effects that we've seen here in Israeli society. The fact that everyone are just jumping in to help, to volunteer, those who are cooking meals or donating money or, I don't know, hosting refugees in their homes. And this is the same spirit that resonates now in the tech community. And in this respect, if we're trying, to look for the silver linings here, Mr. Rosenthal, another ramification of that, I'm not sure if it's only the glass half full in this respect, but it seems that the international tech industry is developing this moral backbone, as in marking clear lines of no to anti-Semitism, no to anti-Israeli sentiment, no to justifying the massacre, and it's a good sign, I must say.
Without a doubt, I think there's definitively a moral line, but I think there's also just a practicality. Just in the past, let's say, 10 years, we're talking about more than $100 billion that have been invested into the Israeli tech ecosystem. As asset managers, as investors, whether it's pension funds, whether it's private equity funds, whatever it might be, there's a very real realization amongst Jews and non-Jews that as a third to fourth most important tech ecosystem in the world, the viability and the sustainability of the Israeli tech ecosystem is something that matters and will have a direct impact if there's a material, let's say, deterioration of the ecosystem. So definitively, there's a practicality to it as well. And I think consequently, when we came up with this idea of circles of dialogue, what we also realized is it's very difficult to discuss many of these issues that are related to the conflict and the historical context of all of it. But what the tech community is able to do is able to provide a mechanism by which people can speak with each other about tech. And that's an opportunity for people to meet Israelis on a human level, is an opportunity for people to really ultimately get to know each other above and beyond what else is going on. And I think that what we found really amazing as well is that we're seeing, yes, an enormous amount of interest amongst American Jews to say, how can I help? But we're also seeing an enormous amount of interest from non-Jews that said, look, I have exposure as an investor in Israel. These companies need to do well for me to do well. And or I've had such a positive experience working with Israelis as an investor, as a business partner, and consequently, I'm standing by this ecosystem, and I don't necessarily even want to discuss all the other elements.
Right.
And I think that's also really important because at the end of the day, commerce is what allows people to interact.
And perhaps a moment for many people around the world to realize that they no longer can stay on the fence, need to choose sides, and thankfully, many are choosing to side with light. And on that note, rather, Mr. Eric Rosenthal, Chief Strategy Officer at Rapid and co-founder of Circles of Dialogue, thank you very much for this and happy Thanksgiving. There's a lot to be thankful for amidst all this darkness, and the resilience of the Israeli people and those who are sitting with us around the world is definitely part of it. Thank you very much for this.